Welcome everyone to German Tool Reviews. Today we have the Metabo W9-115 4.5-inch angle grinder. This is from Metabo's line of compact angle grinders that includes several different model numbers. Here's a decoder for the part numbers. The first letter is always a W. This is an abbreviation for Winkelschleifer, which is German for angle grinder. There will optionally be two additional letters that indicate the following features. A P, which indicates a non-locking paddle switch. Parts emitting this letter will have a locking slide switch. E, for an electronically controlled motor. Parts emitting this letter are controlled with a simple mechanical switch. V, for variable speed. Parts emitting this letter will have a fixed motor speed. Next, there will be two digits that indicate the power draw of the motor. This power draw is indicated in watts. A value of 9 indicates 900 watts, and a value of 15 indicates 1500 watts, etc. After a dash, there will be three more digits that indicate the size of the disc in millimeters. There are three sizes available: 115, which is a 4.5-inch, 125, which is a 5-inch, and 150, which is a 6-inch. Finally, there will be additional code that indicates any extra features of the model. The word quick indicates that it uses Metabo's toolless quick change system, and the word inox means that it is a higher torque version specifically designed for working on stainless steel. So let's go ahead and unbox this thing. I was not impressed with the way that the item was packaged, as you could definitely shake it and hear things rattling around. I'm not sure if there was a piece of packing material missing from the one I got, which could explain this. Opening the box, we have the following packing contents: the paper manual, the guard for 115mm blades, the handle, 2-pin spanner wrench, and the grinder itself. So let's take a closer look at each of these items. First, we have the 2-pin spanner wrench. This is a pretty thick piece of zinc-plated steel. I can't tell how the pins are connected, but I would guess they were press-fitted with a hydraulic press. There are no markings on the wrench. Next, we have the guard. This looks to be cast aluminum with a matte finish. The 115 diameter marking is the disc size, not the diameter of the guard. Now onto the tool. First impression is not good. As you can see, the person who trimmed the zip cord ties did not do the best job. If you ever gotten scratched by a badly trimmed one of these, you know how deceivingly sharp the edges can be. This is what it should have looked like. So let's take a closer look at the power cord. As marked on the cord is a 2-conductor 16 American wire gauge. It is a type SJ cord, which means that it is rated up to 300 volts and 60 degrees C ambient temperature. The SJ stands for Service Junior or Junior Service Cord. The number E156549-A is the UL license number for the manufacturer of the cord. I looked up this in the UL certifications directory and came up with the Dongguan Ever United Electric Wire and Cable Company Limited, based out of China. Therefore, I think we can assume that the power cord is made in China. Since the tool is double insulated, only a polarized power plug is necessary. So let's go ahead and tear down into this thing. The lower housing of the tool is held on with a single T15 Torx self-tapping zinc-plated screw. After sliding the housing down, we see a big PVC strain relief boot, which I like. You also see a cord clamp held down with a Torx screw. It is safe to say that the cable would probably snap before you pull it through these two supports. On the other side, there's a piece of plastic that also has a cord grip built into it. This piece looks also to act as a spacer for the place where I guess additional electronics would go in some of the other models. All of the internal plastic parts are stamped with PA6-GF30, which is a nylon 6 polymer reinforced 30% long strand glass. This is an extremely strong and heat-resistant material. The ASTM D648 deflection temperature of this material is upwards of 200 degrees C, which is about the best you can get at this time. In comparison, ABS would deflect around 88 degrees C using the same test method. This makes it much more heat-resistant than even polycarbonate. Looking at the switch mechanism, there's a long arm that extends up to the physical switch, which engages a very large momentary switch. The actuator has a rubber boot to protect the internals from dust, which should extend its life. I did not see any markings on the switch, but I would guess it's probably a part subcontracted out to one of the larger switch manufacturers with all the markings removed. If you take a look at the tool head, it uses a 5/8 11 thread pitch and a 7/8 arbor. The button on the top of the zinc housing is used to lock the head in place for replacing the disc. The lever shown here is for rotating the position of the guard housing. More on that later. Let's take a quick look into the gearbox for all you beveled gear fans. The three indentations you see here are for the locking pin when changing the disc. We'll go ahead and close the gearbox up to avoid making a mess. For the bearing fans, the head uses a 6203 LU bearing which is a 12mm by 40mm double rubber sealed bearing. In order to remove the armature, you need to remove the 4 torque screws that attach the head to the housing. I also found you need to remove the screw holding the guard adjustment lever in order to access one of the screws. These are all self-tapping zinc-plated screws. After removing these screws, it should slide out relatively easily. Taking a closer look at the armature and commutator, I like the bearing sleeve that is on the end instead of using a press-fit bearing. The bearing is marked 626ZT, which means it is a 6mm by 19mm single seal taper bearing. There were no manufacturer markings on the bearing. Taking a quick look at the field windings, you could tell Metabo was serious about preventing any movement in the copper winding coils. As you can see, there's a serious amount of thermoplastic insulation applied here that doesn't allow any movement or dust intrusion. Taking a closer look at the brush assembly, I was surprised to see a constant force spring for an entry-level grinder. A constant force spring has the properties of applying the same amount of force through the entire range of motion. The reason I am surprised is that these are very expensive in comparison to compression springs because they require a special type of spring steel and strict manufacturing tolerances. The advantage here is that the pressure exerted on the brush will remain the same throughout the entire life of the brush. Well, that's about all there is to see here, so let's put everything back together and test it. The guard adjustment level allows for a plus or minus 60-degree rotation from the nominal position. Simply pull back on the lever and spin the guard to one of the other knockouts. To attach the disc, you'll first need to add the black piece of metal, followed by your disc and then the chrome metal nut. Then, using the 2-pin spanner wrench and the locking mechanism, tighten the nut. To christen the angle grinder, I'm going to grind away some of the rust on this piece of cast iron I found metal detecting. I think it was part of an old stove. I noticed that the grinder doesn't feel like it loses any power at all for this job. Just to throw off some sparks, let's knock some rust off this steel cultivator tine. Notice that the grinder is light enough to use it one-handed very comfortably. In conclusion, the Metabo W9-115 is a great entry-level grinder that performs well above its price point. Well, that wraps up the review for this 4.5-inch angle grinder. Check out the link in the description below to the full review, including additional high-resolution photos not shown here. If you like this video, subscribe for more reviews of German brand tools.